Deep within the labyrinthine alleyways of Graystone, where the fog clings to the cobblestones like a forgotten lover, stands a shop that appears on no municipal map. The neon sign above the door buzzes with a dying amber light, spelling out a single name: The Echo. To the casual passerby, it is merely a relic of a bygone era. A tailor shop with dusty mannequins and faded velvet curtains that have remained drawn for half a century. But the locals know better. They cross the street to avoid walking in its shadow. They whisper that the brass door handle is always cold, even in the height of summer, and that if you press your ear against the glass of the display window, you can hear the faint, distorted sounds of laughter from decades ago. This is not a place for those who seek to mend a tear in a shirt or hem a pair of trousers. The Echo is a sanctuary for the broken-hearted, a pharmacy for the soul where the medicine is woven from thread and shadow. Legend says that the fabric here is not spun from cotton or wool, but from the very essence of time itself. Here the past is not a foreign country. It is a garment that can be tailored, resized, and worn again. But as with all things that defy the laws of nature, the price of entry is steep. You do not pay with gold or silver at the Echo. You pay with the weight of your sorrow, and sometimes, if you are not careful, you pay with your future. Welcome to the shop where memories are alive, and where letting go is the hardest stitch to make. The shop did not smell of dust or mothballs, as one might expect from a place so ancient. Instead, Elara's atelier smelled of ozone and petrichor, the scent of rain before it falls. This was the scent of raw memory. For 40 years, Elara had sat bent over her workbench, her spine curved like a question mark, engaging in a trade that was as forbidden as it was necessary. She was a memory tailor. In the city of Graystone, where the fog seemed to erase the past, people came to her to remember. They brought her torn shreds of their history, and she, with her silver needles and threads spun from liquid emotion, stitched them back together. Tonight, the shop was quiet, save for the hum of the threads. On the shelves, spools of blue silk whispered the sounds of ocean waves from summers long gone. Spools of red velvet radiated a heat that could burn the skin, holding the fury of lovers' quarrels. Elara adjusted her spectacles, her eyes reflecting the shimmering fabrics. She was not merely a seamstress, she was a curator of ghosts. Every coat, every dress, every scarf in this room held a soul suspended in time. It was a lonely existence. To work with memories was to constantly live in the pasts of strangers, feeling their joys and their devastating heartbreaks as if they were her own. She picked up her golden scissors, the metal cold against her weathered skin, and prepared for the night's work. The bell above the door didn't just ring. It tolled, heavy and mournful, announcing a burden arriving. Clara stood in the threshold, bringing the cold night air in with her. She was young, far too young to have eyes that looked so hollowed out by grief. She held a bundle in her arms as if it were an infant, protecting it from the cruel world. It was a tweed jacket, rough, brown, worn at the elbows, an ordinary object to the untrained eye, but to Elara it screamed. It screamed of a life abruptly cut short. Clara walked to the counter, her movements stiff and robotic. "They told me you could help," Clara whispered, her voice fracturing like brittle glass. She placed the jacket on the counter. "It's losing his scent. Every day he fades a little more. I can't remember the weight of his arm on my shoulders anymore." Elara looked at the young widow. She had seen this desperation 1,000 times. It was the hunger of the grieving, a starvation that no food could satisfy. Elara reached out and touched the tweed. A jolt of energy shot through her fingertips, a laugh, the smell of tobacco, a sudden crash of metal. The husband's death was there, lingering in the fibers. "Child," Elara said softly, "memory is a drug. If I awaken this coat, you may never want to take it off. It is a dangerous comfort." Clara didn't blink. "I don't want comfort," she said. "I want him." The process of binding a spirit to fabric was not gentle. It was a battle. Elara locked the doors and lit the black candles that absorbed excess sorrow. She laid the tweed jacket on her table and selected the thread of longing, a wire-thin gray filament that felt like ice to the touch. As soon as the needle pierced the tweed, the room temperature plummeted. Breath pluming in the freezing air, Elara began to stitch. She had to follow the existing seams of the jacket, reopening them to insert the memory. Her hands shook. This was not just sewing, it was channeling. Waves of the dead husband's emotions crashed over her. She felt his overwhelming love for Clara, but also his confusion, his sudden pain at the moment of death. The needle slipped, pricking Elara's finger. A drop of blood fell onto the lining, instantly sizzling and vanishing into the cloth. The jacket began to thrash on the table, inhabited by a chaotic energy. Elara gritted her teeth, sweating despite the cold. "Hold still, Arthur," she muttered to the coat. "I am bringing you back to her. Just hold still." She sewed frantically, trapping the essence of his hug into the shoulders and the warmth of his chest into the lapels. By the time the final knot was tied, Elara was exhausted, slumped over the machine, while the jacket lay there, softly pulsing with a heartbeat of its own. When Clara returned the next morning, the jacket sat on a mannequin looking innocuous, yet the air around it shimmered like heat haze on a summer road. Elara watched silently as Clara approached it with trembling hands. The moment Clara slipped her arms into the sleeves, the transformation was instantaneous and terrifyingly beautiful. Clara gasped, her back arching as if physically struck. But it wasn't pain, it was the shock of presence. The magic of the weave activated. The jacket tightened around her not like fabric but like muscle and bone. It mimicked the specific pressure of Arthur's embrace. To Clara, the shop disappeared. She was no longer standing in a dusty atelier. She was back in their kitchen or walking in the park, held safely in the sanctuary of his arms. She closed her eyes and a smile broke through her tears. A smile so pure it broke Elara's heart to witness it. A faint golden translucence formed around Clara, a ghostly outline of a man standing behind her, his chin resting on her head, his arms wrapped around her waist. It was a perfect illusion, a resurrection of feeling. Clara whispered his name, burying her face in the rough collar, inhaling the scent that Elara had painstakingly restored. She was reunited, but she was also trapped. Days turned into weeks, and the miracle turned into a curse. Clara stopped living. She was seen wandering the city streets, always wearing the heavy tweed jacket, regardless of the weather. She walked with a strange gait, leaning into empty space as if leaning against a partner who wasn't there. She spoke to the air, laughing at jokes no one else heard. The city of Graystone moved on, but Clara was stuck in a loop of artificial time. Elara watched her from the shop window. Clara had grown thin, her skin pale and waxy. The jacket, once a source of comfort, was now a parasite. It was feeding on her energy to sustain the illusion. The golden glow that had once surrounded Clara had turned a sickly, bruised purple. The memory was decaying. The fabric was fraying, and with every loose thread, the ghost of Arthur became more distorted, more demanding. One afternoon, Clara stormed into the shop, her eyes wild and manic. "Fix it!" she screamed, clutching the unraveling lapel. "He's stuttering. I can't feel his hands anymore. Fix him." Elara saw the madness in the girl's eyes. This wasn't love anymore, it was necromancy. Clara had become a tomb for a memory that refused to die. It had to end. The decision weighed on Elara like a stone, but she knew that to save the woman, she had to kill the husband a second time. She waited until the deepest part of the night, when exhaustion finally claimed Clara. Using a copy of the key Clara had once dropped, Elara entered the young widow's cold apartment. Clara lay on a mattress on the floor, still wearing the jacket, shivering in her sleep, clutching the empty sleeves. Elara knelt beside her. She didn't use magic this time. She used a simple, sharp pair of iron shears. She found the heart thread, the central binding she had sewn weeks ago. With tears in her own eyes, Elara whispered a silent apology to the universe for destroying a miracle. Snip. The sound was deafening in the silence. The tension in the jacket instantly vanished. The fabric slumped, becoming just wool and synthetic lining. The ghostly presence evaporated like steam. Clara stirred, a frown crossing her face as the warmth left her. In the morning she would wake up cold. She would wake up alone. Ideally she would hate Elara. But eventually she would start to heal, for true healing only begins when the echo stops answering.